Imagine you wake up in a dream. You've just crawled out of bed, which is your bed, but, well, maybe it's not. You can't remember now. Not that it matters, because you have finally reached the state of consciousness that you've been aiming for, the elusive lucid dream. In Scriptwriter's Deep Sleep, a game released in 2012, you play as a researcher set on exploring those mysterious dreams where you have full control over your body and mind. Ideally, you could do anything. This is the one time you should have total authority over the world around you, but for our protagonist, this place seems a little too empty. Like most horror games, you find yourself isolated in an unfamiliar location, but this time, it's different. There's this endless feeling that the second you enter a room, someone else just left. Deep Sleep is a fantastic game for several reasons, but one of the quintessential aspects of its horror experience is how you're made to feel like seeing something, literally anything, would be less creepy than what you're actually faced with. Nothing at all. It's not often that nothing is scarier than the alternative, but when you're thrown into an effective horror atmosphere like this, it's not difficult to exaggerate what the monster lurking in the shadows might look like. And almost always, that image is far more terrifying than reality. Deep Sleep is a dark game. Most rooms are dimly lit, if at all, and we get so used to relishing in this darkness that any direct source of light is blinding. Even with this primal fear of the dark embedded in us, the game ultimately encourages us to be comforted by it, which is as rare as it is impressive. However, don't get me wrong, there is rarely a moment of safety. Every movement is cautious because you never know when the monster, whatever it may be, will finally pop out of the shadows. The environment of Deep Sleep has this really fascinating way of making you feel slightly insane. We don't see anything, and it's not that we necessarily want to be jump scared, but in a way, a scare would make our uneasiness feel valid. Time and time again, we expect to encounter another living creature, but are ultimately only met with remnants of them. A looped recording, notes tacked to a wall, and handprints on the wrong end of a raging incinerator. We get the feeling that someone was just here and we keep barely missing them by some cruel twist of fate. But what if they're trying to hide from us? One of the best examples of this feeling begins with this moment early on in the game. So, obviously, someone knows we're here. They know we're awake and our approximate location, which is slightly unnerving, but surely they're on our side. They're giving us advice. You have to wake up. But then, a few puzzles later, we climb into a room that you can only access by a window and find a recording of those very words you heard before. Now, any sort of camaraderie we thought we had feels a lot less genuine. And it didn't really in the first place. Why wasn't this a live phone call? Why didn't the caller just meet us in person if they were actually so close? Are we the monster? Strangely, we never get a solid answer to any of those. We do, however, eventually find ourselves here. finally, our fear of what lurks in the dark has been justified. This is easily the most stressful bit of gameplay in Deep Sleep, and I cannot go any further without noting how effectively constricting the point-and-click style is. The lack of fluidity in our movements make the sequence feel like it's going very quickly, when in reality, whatever's chasing us is pretty slow. It's still unnerving though, isn't it? We finally have the opportunity to come face to face with the antagonist, and we still can't really see it. Not in any way that feels definitive, at least. According to Deep Sleep lore, this is a shadow person, and fittingly, it resembles your average sleep paralysis demon. It's one thing to obscure the antagonist from our view, but another entirely for this to be all that the enemy is. With no defining features or visible points of weakness, we don't get the luxury of critiquing character design or planning how to attack, both of which would comfort us a little more. Instead, all we can do is sort of hurriedly saunter away, and that's not much of a defense mechanism, is it? Luckily for us, we can be a bit more proactive during the final sequence. After this group of shadow people chase you to the top floor of a lighthouse, you can redirect the structure's beam of light to vaporize them. And that's it. It seems like we've won. The immediate threat has been averted, but the fight isn't really over. At this point, the game ends with our protagonist waking up and vowing to return again. Whether you see this as stupid or selfless is up to your own interpretation, but I can't help but feel like there are a lot of unanswered questions. It's stressful enough to uncover a secret society of shadow people, but arguably way worse to know that you can never really escape them. In a way, you are them. Your dreams will now forever feel a little darker, and if you'd like to have a peaceful night's rest again, you know what you have to do. Deep Sleep is the first game in a trilogy which further develops the lore of this world within your subconscious, including the shadow people, other dreamers, and even a turn where you realize you aren't as virtuous as you thought you were. This video really only covered the tip of the iceberg, so I recommend checking out the series, especially before the 4th installment is released sometime in the near future. I'd love to hear what you think about Deep Sleep and its impact on indie horror, if any at all, so feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and I will see y'all again soon. Bye!